Widow went to die in an abandoned trailer, but what she found inside was unbelievable. Dorothy Jean Anderson walked along the dusty backroads of Kentucky with bare feet and a broken heart. She had just handed over the keys to the house where she'd lived for 20 years to the bank, after her husband's medical bills consumed every last cent the family had. When she spotted the abandoned trailer, half hidden among the trees, she thought it would be the perfect place for her last breath on this earth. But as she pushed the rusty door, 5 pairs of frightened eyes stared back at her in complete silence. "Please, Mom, don't call anyone," whispered a girl about 8 years old, holding a baby in her arms. Dorothy stood frozen. 4 children hid behind the oldest one, all wearing dirty clothes with thin faces. Scribbled notes were scattered across the floor, and old food scraps occupied one corner of the trailer. "What are you all doing here?" Dorothy asked, still processing the bizarre scene. The oldest girl, who had curly hair tied back with an old elastic, pressed the baby against her chest. "We don't have a home anymore. The bad man wants to split us up, but he can't. We're siblings." "What bad man?" Dorothy approached slowly, noticing the baby looked very pale. "He says he's our uncle, but we've never seen him before. Mom and Dad went to work on a farm and promised to come back soon, but it's been 3 months now." The other children shifted restlessly. A boy about 6 years old had a dry cough that echoed in the small space. 2 twin girls who looked about 4 clung to each other, and a 5-year-old boy kept his thumb in his mouth. "How did you get here?" Dorothy sat on the floor at the children's level. "We ran away. Emma managed to grab Dad's letter before the man burned everything." The girl pointed to a crumpled paper. "It has the farm's address, but it's torn." Dorothy picked up the note and tried to read the smudged words. She could only make out Saints Farm and a date from 3 months ago. The rest was illegible. "And you've been here alone all this time?" "Emma takes care of us," said the 6-year-old boy. "She's smart." The girl named Emma lowered her eyes. "I try my best, but I don't know what else to do. Noah is getting sick and there's no more food." Dorothy looked at the baby in Emma's arms. Noah must have been about 10 months old, and his breathing was rapid. The situation was desperate, but something inside her stirred in a way she hadn't felt in months. "What are your names?" "I'm Emma. This is Noah. He's Tyler." She pointed to the 6-year-old boy. "These are the twins Lily and Ava, and this is Ethan." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Dorothy felt a tightness in her chest. 5 abandoned children, alone in the world, exactly how she felt. But the difference was they still had their whole lives ahead of them. "When was the last time you ate properly?" "Yesterday we found some old bread near the road," Emma replied quietly. "1 loaf for 5 children?" Emma just nodded. Baby Noah began to cry softly, a weak cry that indicated lack of energy. Dorothy looked at her own empty hands. She had exactly $15 in her pocket, the last money she'd managed to save by selling her final belongings. It was the money she'd saved to buy something that would let her sleep forever. But now, "I'm going to town to buy food for you." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You'll really come back?" "I'll come back." Dorothy stood up and walked to the door. "Stay here and don't go anywhere." The walk to the small-town store took 40 minutes. Dorothy entered Mr. Johnson's market, a man with a graying beard who knew the whole area. "Mrs. Dorothy, I thought you had moved away from town." Mr. Johnson greeted her with surprise. "I did move, I just came to get a few things." Dorothy picked up a basket and started putting in the basics: rice, beans, sugar, powdered milk, cookies, fruit. When she got to the register, the total came to 28 Rs. "Mr. Johnson, could you give me a discount? I'm a bit tight." The shopkeeper looked at the products and then at Dorothy. "This purchase is strange for someone living alone. A lot of kids' food." Dorothy felt her heart race. "It's for some relatives who are visiting." "What relatives? I've never seen anyone at your house." They're nieces and nephews who came from far away." Mr. Johnson didn't seem convinced, but he accepted the 15 Rs and let Dorothy take the food. As she left, She heard the shopkeeper picking up the phone. The way back seemed longer. Dorothy carried 2 heavy bags and an even bigger worry. Mr. Johnson definitely suspected something. When she reached the trailer, the children were exactly where she had left them. Emma was still holding Noah, who now seemed to have a fever. "I brought food." Dorothy set the bags on the floor. The children approached cautiously, as if they couldn't believe it was real. Tyler opened one of the bags and his eyes lit up when he saw the cookies. "First, let's give something to Noah." Dorothy prepared a bottle with the powdered milk and water she had brought in a bottle. The baby drank desperately, as if he hadn't had milk in days. Then it was the other children's turn to eat cookies and fruit. Dorothy watched every move, every shy smile that appeared on their thin little faces. "Now tell me properly what happened to you." Emma swallowed a piece of banana before speaking. "Dad and Mom got a job offer on a farm. The man said it was temporary, just a couple of months, and that they would earn a lot of money." "And you didn't go along?" "They wanted to take us, but the man said there was no room for children. They promised it was just until they got a better house on the farm." Tyler finished the story. "Then this man showed up saying he was our uncle and that he would take care of us while our parents worked." "But you had never seen him before?" "Never," Emma shook her head, "and he was very mean. He yelled all the time, didn't give us proper food, and said our parents weren't coming back." "How did you escape?" "One night he drank too much and passed out. We took Dad's letter and ran." Emma's voice showed pride. "We walked all night until we found this trailer." Dorothy looked around the cramped space. The roof had leaks, the windows were broken, and the smell of dampness was strong. It was no place for 5 children to live. "And you've been here ever since?" "We only go out at night to look for food or water." Ethan spoke for the first time, taking his thumb out of his mouth. The twins, Lily and Ava, hadn't said anything yet. They seemed to be in shock, clinging to each other all the time. Noah finished the bottle and started crying again. This time Dorothy noticed it was a different cry. The baby had a high fever. "He needs to see a doctor." Dorothy touched Noah's forehead. "We can't," Emma panicked. "If we show up at the hospital, they'll call the mean man. But Noah could get very sick. I'd rather he be sick with me than away from his siblings." The determination in the 8-year-old's voice broke Dorothy's heart. Here was a girl who had taken on responsibilities even adults couldn't handle. The day passed, and Dorothy couldn't bring herself to leave. She helped bathe the children with the water she had brought, improvised beds with dry leaves and her own shirt, and told stories to distract them. When night fell, Noah was even worse. The fever wouldn't break and he could barely keep his eyes open. "I'll get some medicine for him." Dorothy stood up. "How? The pharmacies are closed." "I know someone who can help." Dorothy left the trailer determined. She knew Mr. Wilson, who had worked at the town pharmacy for 30 years. He lived in the back of the establishment and always helped in emergencies. She knocked on the back door until Mr. Wilson appeared in his pajamas. "Mrs. Dorothy, what happened?" "I need children's antibiotics. It's urgent. I can't sell medicine without a prescription, you know that. Please, Mr. Wilson, it's a real emergency." The pharmacist looked at the desperation on Dorothy's face. "Which child? Where are they?" Dorothy hesitated. She couldn't tell the whole truth. "It's a baby who's sick. The parents aren't here, and I can't take them to the doctor right now." "That's very strange, Mrs. Dorothy. You live alone." "Please, I'll pay whatever it takes." Mr. Wilson stayed silent for a few seconds, studying Dorothy's face. "I'll give you antibiotics, but I want to know whose child this is tomorrow." Dorothy took the medicine and hurried back to the trailer. Noah took the medication with difficulty, but at least managed to swallow it. "Now we wait for the fever to break." Dorothy sat down beside Emma. "Are you staying here tonight?" "I'm staying." It was the first time in months that Dorothy had a purpose. Taking care of those 5 children made her feel useful again, like when she cared for her sick husband. During the night, Noah improved a little. The fever broke and he managed to sleep. Dorothy also dozed off, sitting on the trailer floor. When the sun rose, she was awakened by voices outside. "I'm sure I saw movement around here," a woman's voice said. Dorothy stood up slowly and looked through the broken window. Mrs. Henderson, the town's official busybody, was pointing at the trailer while talking to a man in a suit whom Dorothy didn't recognize. The children are really in there, the man spoke with authority. Emma woke up and saw the panic on Dorothy's face. It's him, she whispered. It's the bad man. The other children woke up from the noise and immediately hid behind Emma. Noah whimpered softly, but Emma quickly calmed him. Come out now, the man shouted. I know you're in there. Dorothy looked at the 5 terrified children. She couldn't let that man take them, not after everything she had seen. Stay quiet, she whispered to the children. I'll talk to them. Dorothy exited the trailer as naturally as possible. Good morning, can I help you with something? The man looked her up and down. He was tall, fat, and had a cruel expression on his face. I'm looking for 5 children who ran away. Mrs. Henderson said she saw movement in this trailer. I haven't seen any children. I just came here looking for a place to rest. Are you sure? The man approached threateningly. Absolutely. Mrs. Henderson, a woman in her 60s with an unfriendly face, looked at Dorothy suspiciously. This story is strange. You disappeared from town and now show up here. And yesterday Mr. Johnson said you bought a bunch of children's food. Dorothy felt her blood run cold. I bought regular food. I don't know what you're talking about. The man introduced himself. My name is Gerald Thompson. I'm these children's uncle and I've been looking for them for weeks. If you know anything, you'd better speak up. I already told you I don't know anything. Gerald looked around the trailer, observing every detail. Can I take a look inside? No, you can't. Dorothy blocked the entrance. This is private property. Private nothing. This trailer has been abandoned for years. The tension increased. Dorothy knew that if Gerald entered, he would discover the children immediately. If you insist, I'll call the police, Dorothy bluffed. Gerald laughed sarcastically. Go ahead, I have custody documents for these children. They are my legal responsibility. Then why did they run away from you? Because they're stubborn children who don't understand what's best for them. Mrs. Henderson interrupted the conversation. Gerald, let me take a look inside. A woman doesn't suspect another woman. No one is going in. Dorothy stood firm. Gerald was losing patience. Listen here, woman. Either you let me in there or I'll have to take other measures. What measures? I'll accuse you of kidnapping. Hiding missing children is a crime. Dorothy felt the ground slip from under her feet. There was no way to prove her innocence if she were formally accused. I'm not hiding anyone. Gerald pulled his cell phone from his pocket. I'm calling the authorities right now. That's when Noah started crying inside the trailer. The sound echoed clearly, and there was no denying the children's presence. Gerald's malicious grin widened. I thought there was no one in there. Dorothy closed her eyes. She was cornered. Come out now, Gerald shouted toward the trailer. Enough games. Emma appeared at the door holding Noah in her arms. The other children hid behind her, clearly terrified of Gerald's presence. Look who I found, Gerald approached with a fake smile. My dear nieces and nephews who've given me so much trouble. We're not going with you, Emma said bravely. Of course you are. I'm responsible for you. Tyler stepped out from behind his sister. You're mean. Mom and Dad wouldn't want us to be with you. Your parents left me in charge. They're gone and they're not coming back. That's a lie, Emma shouted. They promised to come back. Gerald laughed. Promised? How naive. They left because you were too much trouble. Gerald's words hit the children like punches. The twins started crying, and Ethan went back to sucking his thumb desperately. Dorothy couldn't take it anymore. Enough. You're hurting these children. And you're interfering in family matters. Gerald turned to her. You can leave now. We don't need your help anymore. I won't let you take these children. You have no choice. I'm their legal guardian. Gerald showed some crumpled papers from his pocket. Dorothy tried to read them, but he quickly put them away. Come on, kids, time to go home. We don't want to go. Emma clung to Dorothy. Please, don't let him take us. Dorothy looked at those 5 desperate little faces. How could she abandon them now? They're staying with me. You have no authority over them. Then prove you're really related to these children. Gerald showed the papers again, but this time Dorothy managed to get a better look. They were documents printed at home, with basic information and no official seal. These papers are fake. They are legal. Where's the notary that registered this guardianship? Gerald hesitated. That's none of your business. Dorothy realized she had hit the mark. The documents were clearly forged. Mrs. Henderson, have you ever seen this man around town before? The gossipy woman looked at Gerald carefully. Now that you mention it, I never have, and I know everyone around here. Because I live in another town, Gerald quickly justified. What town? Dorothy pressed. That doesn't matter. Come on, kids. Gerald tried to grab Emma by the arm, but the girl dodged. Don't touch me. I'll have to use force then. That's when Dorothy stepped between Gerald and the children. You won't lay a finger on them. Get out of the way, woman. I won't. Gerald pushed Dorothy hard, making her fall to the ground. The children screamed in despair. Mrs. Henderson, who had only been observing until then, was outraged. Hey, you can't hit a woman like that. She's getting in the way, Gerald justified himself. Dorothy got up with back pain. Now you've shown who you really are. And you've shown that you're obstructing justice. I'm going to sue you for kidnapping. Go ahead and sue. But first I'm going to talk to the sheriff about these fake documents. Gerald's face changed color. The documents aren't fake. Then you won't mind if the sheriff takes a look at them. Gerald quickly put the papers away. I don't need to prove anything to you. Yes, you do, if you want to take these children. The argument was getting more and more tense. Noah was crying in Emma's lap and the other children were trembling with fear. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Mrs. Henderson, always sharp for gossip, was paying attention to every word of the conversation. Gerald, if these children are really your relatives, why are they so afraid of you? Because they're badly behaved. Their parents never gave them proper upbringing. Where are these children's parents? Mrs. Henderson asked. Working on a farm. They left me in charge of them. Which farm? Gerald hesitated again. A farm. Far from here. Does this farm have a name? St. Joseph's Farm. Dorothy remembered the torn letter the children had. The address started with Saint's Farm, but the rest was illegible. Do you know the full address of this farm? Of course I do. Then tell us. Gerald made up some address, but Dorothy noticed he was improvising. And do you have the phone number of these children's parents? There's no phone at the farm. What do you mean, no phone? What kind of farm doesn't have a phone in the 21st century? It's a rural farm, Mrs. Henderson laughed. A rural farm. All farms are rural, man. Gerald was getting more and more tangled up. Dorothy took the opportunity to press further. If you're really these children's uncle, tell us their parents' names. Their parents' names? Yes. What are their names? Gerald looked at the children, trying to find some clue. Their names are Ethan and Mary. Tyler started laughing. Ethan and Mary, you don't even know our parents' names. Of course I do, I just got confused. Then say the right names, Emma challenged. The right names are Robert and Anna. The children shook their heads in denial. Wrong again. Ethan took his thumb out of his mouth to speak. Dorothy crossed her arms. Interesting. An uncle who doesn't know his own siblings' names. I do know. I'm just nervous. Nervous about what? If they're really your relatives, there's no reason to be nervous. Gerald started sweating. The situation was slipping out of his control. Enough questions. These children are coming with me now. No, they're not. Dorothy stood firm. You can't stop me. Yes, I can, and I will. Gerald tried to get around Dorothy to grab the children, but she moved to block the path. Get out of the way. I won't. Mrs. Henderson, call the police. Gerald lost his patience. What for? Mrs. Henderson asked innocently. To arrest this woman for kidnapping. But if the children don't want to go with you, how is that kidnapping? Gerald was left speechless. Mrs. Henderson, despite being a gossip, wasn't stupid. Besides, Mrs. Henderson continued, you still haven't proven that you're really related to these children. I already showed the documents. Those scribbled papers? My 10-year-old grandson makes better documents on the computer. Dorothy realized she had an unexpected ally in Mrs. Henderson. Mrs. Henderson is right. These documents are very suspicious. They're legal, Gerald insisted. Then you won't mind if we take them to the notary to check. There's no need to check anything. Yes, there is, especially if you want custody of 5 children. Gerald looked around, searching for a way out. He was clearly cornered. You're making a simple situation difficult. Simple my foot, Mrs. Henderson retorted. 5 terrified children running away from a man who says he's their uncle, but doesn't even know their parents' names. This is too suspicious. I am their uncle. A fake uncle, Tyler shouted. You hit us. You hit the children. Dorothy was outraged. I didn't hit them. I just gave them some spankings to teach them. What kind of teaching? Mrs. Henderson was shocked. Normal teaching. Children need discipline. Discipline isn't hitting. Dorothy was getting angrier. Emma took advantage of the adult's argument to whisper something in Tyler's ear. The boy nodded and ran off. Hey, come back here, Gerald yelled. Tyler, Emma called. Come back. But the boy kept running toward town. Gerald tried to run after him, but Dorothy stopped him. Let the boy go. He's going to tell lies about me. If they're lies, why are you worried? Gerald realized he had said too much. I'm not worried. I just want to keep the children together. Then you should be happy they don't want to be separated from you, Mrs. Henderson remarked with irony. Gerald didn't know what to say anymore. With every word he spoke, he dug himself deeper. Tyler came running back, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him were Mr. Johnson, the store owner, and Mr. Wilson, the pharmacist. Mrs. Dorothy. Mr. Johnson arrived breathless. The boy said you're having trouble. It's no trouble, Gerald interrupted. I'm just picking up my nephews. Mr. Wilson looked at the children clinging to Dorothy. What nephews are these who are so afraid of their uncle? They're ill-mannered, Gerald repeated the same excuse. Ill-mannered or scared? Mr. Johnson asked Emma directly. Scared, the girl answered without hesitation. He's not our uncle. Of course I am. Mr. Wilson approached Gerald. Do you have any documents proving the relationship? Yes, I do. Gerald showed the suspicious papers. Mr. Wilson, who besides being a pharmacist was also a substitute notary clerk, examined the documents carefully. These papers have no legal validity. What do you mean? They have no seal, no notary signature, nothing to prove authenticity. They're private documents. Child custody isn't a private document. It has to be registered at the courthouse. Gerald began to panic. You're making this too complicated. You're the one complicating things, Mr. Johnson retorted, showing up out of nowhere wanting to take 5 children with fake documents. The documents aren't fake. Yes, they are, Mr. Wilson was categorical. And I can state that with certainty. Dorothy seized the moment. Mr. Wilson, is it possible to check if there's any custody record for these children? Yes, it is. I can call the county courthouse. No need to call anyone. Gerald hurried. Why not? Mrs. Henderson asked. If you're right, there's no problem. Because it'll take time and the children are hungry. They are indeed hungry, Dorothy confirmed, but they're not leaving here until this is cleared up. Mr. Wilson took his cell phone from his pocket. I'll call the courthouse right now. Wait, Gerald tried to stop him. Why wait? Mr. Johnson grew even more suspicious. Because it's not necessary. Yes, it is, Dorothy insisted. These children's lives are at stake. Mr. Wilson dialed the courthouse number, while Gerald grew increasingly nervous. Hello, courthouse. This is Joseph from the pharmacy station. I need to check a custody record. What are the children's full names? He asked Emma. Emma Thompson Harris, Noah Thompson Harris, Tyler Thompson Harris, Lily Thompson Harris, Ava Thompson Harris, and Ethan Thompson Harris. Mr. Wilson repeated the names to the courthouse person and waited for the response. There's no custody record for these children, he announced after a few minutes. It must be at another courthouse, Gerald tried to justify. Which courthouse? From where I live. Where's that? Gerald made up the name of some random town. I'll call there too, Mr. Wilson threatened. No need. Gerald was sweating profusely. I need to leave now. What do you mean leave? Dorothy found it strange. Weren't you going to take the children? I'll come back another day with the right documentation. What right documentation? Mr. Johnson asked. The original documentation. These papers you showed aren't originals. They're copies. Copies of documents that don't exist, Mr. Wilson said sarcastically. Gerald realized he was completely cornered. He tried one last move. You're going to have problems for interfering with my rights. What rights? Mrs. Henderson retorted. You have no rights over these children. Yes, I do. Prove it then. Gerald had no more arguments. He looked at the children one last time and threatened, "This isn't over." "It better be." Mr. Johnson stood his ground. "Because if you show up here again without legal documentation, we'll call the real police." Gerald stomped away, but before leaving he turned to Dorothy. "You're going to regret getting involved in this." "I won't regret protecting 5 innocent children." Gerald got in the car and sped off, raising dust from the road. When he finally disappeared from view, the children ran to hug Dorothy. "Thank you for not letting him take us," Emma cried with relief. "He was really mean," Tyler confirmed. Dorothy felt an emotion she hadn't experienced in a long time. Protecting those children had awakened a maternal instinct she thought she had lost forever. Mr. Johnson approached. "Mrs. Dorothy, what are you going to do with these children now?" It was a question Dorothy didn't know how to answer. She had no home, no money, nothing. How could she take care of 5 children? "I don't know," she admitted honestly. "They can't stay in that trailer," Mr. Johnson observed. "It's no place for children." "I know, but I have nowhere to take them." Mrs. Henderson, who had been thoughtful during the whole commotion, had an idea. "Mrs. Dorothy, you could stay at Mrs. Parker's house." "Mrs. Parker? She died last month and the house is empty. Her children live far away and haven't decided what to do with the property yet. I can't just enter someone else's house without permission." "I can talk to her children," Mr. Johnson offered. "I'll explain the situation and see if they let you stay temporarily." Dorothy looked at the 5 children. Noah was sleeping in Emma's lap, and the other 4 looked at her with hope. "That would be a big help." "I'll call them right now." Mr. Johnson took out his cell phone. Meanwhile, Mr. Wilson examined Noah more closely. "This baby needs medical follow-up. The fever went down, but it could come back." "I can take him to the health clinic tomorrow," Dorothy suggested. "Yes, you can. I'll prepare a referral." Mr. Johnson returned with good news. "I spoke with Mrs. Parker's son. They authorize you to stay in the house temporarily." "Really?" Dorothy couldn't believe it. "Really? He said it's better to have someone taking care of the house than leaving it abandoned. I can't pay rent." "He doesn't want rent. He just wants someone to look after the house until they decide what to do." It was as if the universe was conspiring in favor of Dorothy and the children. For the first time in months, she felt a glimmer of hope. "Let's go then," she told the children. Mrs. Parker's house was a 15-minute walk from the trailer. It was a simple house, but much better than the abandoned trailer. It had 2 bedrooms, a small living room, kitchen and bathroom. The furniture was still there, covered with sheets. "Wow, what a big house," Ethan exclaimed. For children who had spent weeks in the cramped trailer, that small house seemed like a palace. "Here you'll be able to sleep properly," Dorothy smiled. "And you're going to stay with us?" Emma asked anxiously. Dorothy looked at those 5 hopeful little faces. How could she abandon them now? "I'm staying." The children celebrated as if they'd won the lottery. It was incredible how small things could bring so much happiness to those who had nothing. Dorothy organized the house while the children explored every corner. They discovered some old toys in a closet, left behind by Mrs. Parker's grandchildren. That night, for the first time in weeks, all 5 children slept in real beds. Dorothy lay awake thinking about how her life had completely changed in just one day. In the morning, she woke to the sound of children playing in the living room. Noah was much better, without fever, and the other children seemed much happier. "Good morning," Emma greeted her. Noah already had his bottle. "You're very responsible," Dorothy praised. "I had to learn to be." It was sad that an 8-year-old had to take on so many responsibilities, but at the same time her maturity was admirable. After breakfast, Dorothy took Noah to the health clinic. Nurse Lucy, a kind woman in her 50s, examined the baby carefully. "He's much better," she diagnosed, "but he needs vitamins and fortified nutrition." "I'll take care of his diet." Are you his mother? Dorothy hesitated. No, I'm taking care of him temporarily. Where are the parents? Working on a farm. They can't care for the children right now. Lucy didn't seem entirely convinced, but didn't press further. I can provide the vitamins and special milk he needs. Thank you. When Dorothy returned home, she found an unexpected situation. Mrs. Henderson was at the door talking with the children. Ah, Mrs. Dorothy is back, Mrs. Henderson smiled. I was talking with the children about their situation. Dorothy felt a chill in her stomach. What situation? Well, 5 children without parents. This needs to be regularized. What do you mean regularized? You need to notify Child Protective Services, register the situation, those kinds of things. Dorothy knew Mrs. Henderson was right, but she was afraid of what might happen. What if they separated the children? What if they sent them to different shelters? Mrs. Henderson, could I speak with you privately? They moved away from the children. Mrs. Henderson, I know you're right, but these children have already suffered so much. If Child Protective Services comes and decides to separate them, they won't separate them. Siblings have the right to stay together. But what if they can't find a family willing to adopt 5 children at once? That's exactly the problem. Dorothy thought for a few seconds. What if I apply to be their guardian? You? But you don't even have your own house. I do now, and I have love to give them. Love is important, but Child Protective Services will evaluate financial conditions too. I'll find a way to work. Mrs. Henderson became thoughtful. You know what, Mrs. Dorothy? I liked how you protected these children yesterday. It showed you have a good heart. Thank you. I'll help you. How? I know people at Child Protective Services. I can put in a good word for you. It was incredible how the same person Dorothy had always considered an annoying gossip was becoming an important ally. Thank you very much, Mrs. Henderson. But there's one condition. What? You have to keep me informed about everything. I want to know how these children are doing, if they need anything, if anyone is threatening them. Dorothy laughed. Mrs. Henderson wanted to help, but couldn't set aside her curious nature. Deal. In the following days, Dorothy dedicated herself completely to the children. She took them all to the health clinic for complete checkups, got them spots at the public school, and started looking for work. The work problem was complicated. She needed something that would allow her to care for the children at the same time. She couldn't leave them alone after everything they'd been through. That's when Mr. Johnson had an idea. Mrs. Dorothy, how about you work here at the market? At the market. I can give you a part-time job. You work in the morning while the children are at school, and in the afternoon. In the afternoon, you stay with them. It wasn't a job that paid much, but it was enough to buy food and other basic necessities. I accept. Dorothy started working at Mr. Johnson's market. It was simple work, organizing products and helping customers, but it made her feel useful again. The children adapted well to the new routine. Emma and Tyler attended the public school. The twins went to preschool, and Ethan stayed with Dorothy and Noah at the market. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. Everything seemed to be going well until 2 weeks later, Gerald returned. This time he wasn't alone. He brought 2 large, tough-looking men. Where are my children? He asked directly to Mr. Johnson. What children? You know very well what children. I don't know anything. One of the men with Gerald stepped forward intimidatingly. You better cooperate, old man. Mr. Johnson wasn't intimidated. I'm not afraid of bullies. You should be. Dorothy, who was organizing products on the shelves, heard the argument and hid behind the counter with Ethan and Noah. I know the children are in this town, Gerald continued, and I know that woman is taking care of them. What woman? Dorothy. I don't know any Dorothy. Gerald laughed ironically. Of course you do. She works here. Mr. Johnson realized Gerald had done some investigating. Even if I did know her, I wouldn't hand her over to you. Yes, you will, because now I have legal documents. Gerald showed new papers, this time looking more official. They forged new documents. Mr. Johnson wasn't impressed. "These are real. Real, my foot." The second man with Gerald lost his patience. "Enough talk. Where is the woman?" "She's not here." "Lies. Her car is right outside." Dorothy realized she was cornered. She didn't have any car, but apparently they had mistaken some vehicle. "Ethan, Noah," she whispered to the children, "let's go out the back door." They crawled silently to the market's back exit. Dorothy carried Noah in her arms and held Ethan's hand. They left unseen and ran to the school to get the other children. "Aunt Dorothy," Emma was surprised to see her at school outside of hours. "What happened?" "We have to leave here now." "Why?" "The bad man is back." Emma's face paled. "He brought more people." Dorothy gathered all 5 children and left the school through the side entrance. She needed to take them to a safe place, but where? They walked quickly through the town streets until they reached Mr. Wilson's house. Dorothy knocked desperately on the door. "Mr. Wilson, I need help." "Mrs. Dorothy, what happened?" "That man came back and brought other men with him." "Come in, come in." Mr. Wilson took Dorothy and the children into the pharmacy and locked the door. "They're looking for you." "They are, and this time they seem more dangerous. I'll call the police." "Do you think it will help?" "We have to try." Mr. Wilson called the police station and explained the situation. The sheriff promised to send a patrol car to investigate. While they waited, Dorothy tried to calm the children, but it was difficult. They were clearly traumatized from being pursued again. "Aunt Dorothy," Emma asked, "are we going to have to run away again?" "I don't know, sweetheart. I'm trying to resolve this. I'm scared." "So am I. But we'll stay together no matter what happens." Mr. Wilson returned with bad news. The police said they can't do anything without a formal complaint. "What do you mean?" "They want you to go to the police station to file a report. But if I leave here, they'll catch me." "That is a problem indeed." That's when Mrs. Henderson showed up at the pharmacy. "Mrs. Dorothy, I heard you're having trouble." "Mrs. Henderson, I'm so glad you're here. Those men are turning the town upside down looking for you." "How many men?" "3. One is the one who came before. The other 2 are new." "Are they armed?" "I didn't see any weapons, but they're very aggressive," Dorothy thought quickly. She needed to get the children out of town, at least temporarily. "Mrs. Henderson, do you know anyone who can hide us for a few days?" "Yes, I do. My sister lives on a small farm about 20 kilometers from here. You can stay there." "How do we get there without them seeing us?" "I'll ask my brother-in-law to pick you up on the back road." "There's a back road?" "Yes. It goes through the woods and comes out on the main road after the town. It was risky, but it seemed like the only option." "Please call him." Mrs. Henderson called her brother-in-law and explained the situation. He agreed to help and promised to be on the back road in an hour. "Now you have to get there without being seen," Mrs. Henderson explained. "How?" "Through the woods. It's dangerous, but it's the only way." Mr. Wilson offered to guide them. "I know the woods like the back of my hand. I can take you to the road." Dorothy looked at the 5 children. It was a tough decision, but she had no choice. "Let's go." They left through the back door of the pharmacy and entered the woods behind the town. The path was rough, full of branches and rocks, but Mr. Wilson knew a trail. Noah was crying in Dorothy's arms, bothered by the movement and the strange surroundings. The other children followed in a line, holding each other's hands. "We're almost there," Mr. Wilson encouraged the group after half an hour of walking. That's when they heard voices behind them. They must have come this way. It was Gerald's voice. "How did they know about the trail?" Dorothy whispered to Mr. Wilson. "Someone must have told them." They quickened their pace, but carrying Noah and looking after the other 4 children was making the escape difficult. "Aunt Dorothy, I'm tired," Ava complained. "Just a little bit more, sweetie." "I can't walk anymore." Tyler offered to carry his sister on his back. "Climb on, Ava." "You're too small to carry her," Dorothy worried. "I can handle it." The solidarity among the siblings was touching. Even though they were children, they helped each other. The voices behind them were getting closer. Gerald and his men were gaining ground. "There's the road," Mr. Wilson pointed. They finally reached the back road. An old truck was parked waiting for them. "I'm Joe Martin," the driver introduced himself. "Benedita told me about your situation. Thank you so much for helping us. Get in quickly. The men are coming." Dorothy put the children in the truck bed and got in too. Mr. Wilson stayed behind to confuse the pursuers. "I'll tell them you went by the main road," he promised. The truck sped off, kicking up dust. Dorothy hugged the 5 children as they moved away from the town. "Where are we going?" Emma asked. "To Mrs. Henderson's sister's house. We'll stay hidden there until things calm down." "What if they find out where we are?" "They won't find out." But Dorothy wasn't sure of anything. Gerald seemed determined to get the children back, and she didn't understand why. Why was he so insistent if he wasn't a real relative? Mrs. Henderson's sister's small farm was in the middle of nowhere. It was a perfect place to hide, but also very isolated. "I'm Doris," Mrs. Henderson's sister introduced herself. "Benedita told me about you. You can stay as long as you need." Doris was a woman of about 70 years old, a widow who lived alone on the farm with just a few chickens and a cow. "Thank you very much for having us. Don't mention it. It's good to have company around here." The house was simple, but cozy. It had 3 small bedrooms, which allowed everyone to be accommodated with some comfort. The children were delighted with the farm animals. It was the first time they had seen chickens and a cow up close. "Can I feed the chickens?" Ethan asked. "Of course," Doris smiled. "They love corn." For the first time in days, the children seemed relaxed and happy. The rural setting calmed them. Dorothy helped Doris with the household chores while the children played in the yard. It was a simple life, but there was peace. At night, when the children were already asleep, Dorothy and Doris talked about the situation. "Henderson told me that this man isn't actually related to the children. He's not. And I don't understand why he's so insistent on taking them. Maybe he's making money from it." "What do you mean?" "Sometimes people use children to get government benefits, or worse." Dorothy felt a chill. "Worse how?" "Better not to think about it. The important thing is that they're safe here." But the safety lasted only 3 days. On the morning of the 4th day, Joe Martin hurriedly arrived at the farm. "Mrs. Dorothy, the men have found out where you are." "How?" "I don't know, but they're on their way. Henderson sent me to warn you." Dorothy panicked. How did Gerald manage to track them down wherever they went? "We have to leave here." "Where to?" Doris asked. "I don't know." That's when Joe Martin had an idea. "I have a friend who lives in a city 100 kilometers from here. I can take you there." "But if they found us here, they'll find us anywhere." "Not if you change your identities." "What do you mean?" "My friend knows about these things. He can give you new documents." Dorothy hesitated. Forging documents was a crime, but protecting 5 innocent children was more important. "Let's go." They left the farm in a hurry. Doris stayed behind to throw off the pursuers, just as Mr. Wilson had done before. The 100-kilometer journey took 2 hours in Joe Martin's old truck. The children dozed off during the trip, tired from all the running. The city where Joe Martin's friend lived was much bigger than the previous one. It had over 20,000 inhabitants, which would make it easier to hide. "I'm Jack," the friend introduced himself. "Joe Martin told me about your situation." Jack was a man of about 50, with a tough look but who showed sympathy for the children's plight. "I can arrange new documents for you, but it will be expensive." "How much?" 5,000 reais. Dorothy didn't even have 50 reais in her pocket. "I don't have that kind of money." "Then I can't help," Joe Martin intervened. "Jack, these are 5 innocent children being chased by a dangerous man." "I understand, but forging documents can land you in jail. I have to charge for the risk." Dorothy was desperate. She didn't have the money and didn't know how to get it. "I can pay in installments." "How? You don't even have a steady job." "I'll find a job." "With 5 children to take care of, that'll be tough." Jack was right. It was almost impossible to get a good job while caring for 5 children at the same time. "Is there any other way to pay?" Dorothy tried to negotiate. "What kind of payment?" "Work. I can work for you until the debt is paid off." "What kind of work can you do?" "Cleaning, cooking, organizing, anything." Jack thought for a few seconds. I need someone to take care of my mother. She's 85 and can't be left alone. I can take care of her. And the children. They can help, they're very well behaved. I don't know about that. 5 children in my mother's house. Joe Martin tried to help with the negotiation. Jack, your mother loves children. She always complained that she misses her grandchildren who live far away. It's true, Jack admitted. Then let them meet their mother. I'm sure she'll like it. Jack agreed to introduce Dorothy and the children to his mother. The elderly lady, named Mrs. Rose, was delighted especially with Noah. What a beautiful baby, she exclaimed. It's been a while since I've seen such a young child. His name is Noah, Emma introduced her brother. And you are his siblings. We are. I'm Emma, these are Tyler, Lily, Ava, and Ethan. Mrs. Rose looked at the 5 children with affection. Jack, these children can stay here, yes. Are you sure, Mom? Absolutely. It'll be good to have some activity in the house. And so began a new phase in the lives of Dorothy and the children. They lived in Mrs. Rose's house while Dorothy took care of the elderly woman and Jack arranged the new documents. Mrs. Rose was a cheerful and caring lady who quickly grew fond of the children. She told old stories, taught traditional games, and especially spoiled Noah. This child reminds me of my grandson when he was a baby, she always said. The children also grew fond of Mrs. Rose. Emma called her grandma, Tyler helped her with the backyard plants, and the twins kept her company during the afternoons. Everything was going well until, after 2 weeks, they received bad news. Joe Martin came to visit them with a worried expression. Mrs. Dorothy, I have bad news. What happened? Those men found out you came to this town. How do they manage to track us wherever we go? I don't know, but they're asking questions at the bus station, in hotels, everywhere. Dorothy became desperate. It seemed there was no place in the world where they could be at peace. Jack has finished the documents. Not yet, he said he needs 1 more week. A week is a long time. He's doing the best he can. Mrs. Rose, who overheard the conversation, suggested a solution. Why don't you hide here? This house is big. There's a basement where you can stay if someone comes looking. Mrs. Rose, we don't want to cause you any trouble. What trouble? You're part of the family now. Mrs. Rose's kindness moved Dorothy. In just a few days, that lady had become a grandmother to the children and a mother to her. We'll stay then. Jack agreed with his mother's idea and organized the basement to serve as a hiding place if necessary. 2 days later, the precaution proved necessary. Gerald and his men knocked on the house door. We're looking for a woman with 5 children, Gerald said to Mrs. Rose. I haven't seen any woman with 5 children around here. Are you sure? Absolutely. I live alone with my son. Can we take a look inside the house? No, you can't. This is my home and you don't have a warrant. Gerald tried to intimidate the old lady, but Mrs. Rose didn't flinch. Listen here, young man. I'm 85 years old, and I've seen everything in this life. I won't be intimidated by 3 bullies. Ma'am, we just want to get our children back. If they were really your children, they wouldn't be running away from you. Jack appeared to defend his mother. What do you want here? We're looking for some children who ran away. There are no children here. Can we check? No, you can't. Leave the property now. Gerald and his men insisted for a few more minutes, but ended up leaving without being able to enter the house. In the basement, Dorothy and the 5 children heard the whole conversation. Noah almost cried during the argument, but Emma managed to keep him quiet. They're gone. Jack came down to inform them. Thank you for protecting us. No need to thank us, you're family now. Once again, the kindness of strangers had saved Dorothy and the children. It was incredible how simple people showed more humanity than many others. Finally, after another week, Jack finished the new documents. Now Dorothy was called Mary Harris, and the children had different last names too. With these documents, you can start over anywhere, Jack explained. How long will they last? If no one investigates too deeply, they could last forever. It was a temporary solution, but it would allow them to live in peace for a while. Where are you going now? Mrs. Rose asked sadly. We haven't decided yet. You can stay here. This house is too big for me and Jack. Dorothy was tempted to accept the offer, but she knew it would be dangerous for Mrs. Rose and Jack. It's too risky. If those men come back, let them come. I'm not afraid of them. Despite Mrs. Rose's courage, Dorothy knew she couldn't expose that family to danger. Gerald had become increasingly aggressive, and she didn't want anyone to get hurt because of her. "We'll look for a place farther away." "Where?" "In the countryside of Oregon. I know a small town there where we can start over." Jack offered to take them there. The trip took a whole day, but they finally arrived at a small town of 5,000 inhabitants called Green Hill. It was a perfect place to hide, small enough for everyone to know each other, but big enough to absorb a new family without too many questions. Dorothy rented a small house with the little money she had managed to save working for Jack. It was a simple house, but enough to shelter 6 people. The children enrolled in the local school, and Dorothy got a job at the town bakery. It was hard work starting at 5 in the morning, but it allowed her to be free in the afternoon to take care of the children. For 6 months, they lived in peace. The children adapted to the new school, made friends, and seemed happy. Noah grew up and started taking his first steps. Dorothy also adapted to life in Green Hill. The residents were simple and welcoming people who didn't ask many questions about the past. Everything was perfect until one day, returning from the bakery, Dorothy saw a familiar car parked in front of the school. It was Gerald's car. Dorothy ran to the school and found Gerald talking to the principal. "I'm looking for 5 children who might be studying here," he said. "Which children?" the principal asked. "Their names are Emma, Tyler, Lily, Ava, and Ethan Thompson Harris." "We don't have any children with those names." It was true. With the new documents, the children had other names and last names. "Are you sure?" Gerald insisted. "Absolutely. I know all the students in the school." Dorothy hid behind a tree and waited for Gerald to leave. When he finally left, she ran into the school. "I need to pick up my children now." "What happened?" the principal asked. "A family emergency." The principal allowed Dorothy to take the children early. At home, she explained the situation. "We have to leave here," she told the children. "Again?" Emma despaired. "Again? Where are we going now?" "I don't know, but we have to decide quickly." It was the 4th time they had to flee. The children were tired of moving so much, and Dorothy was too. "Aunt Dorothy," Tyler asked, "why won't that man give up looking for us?" "I don't know, my child, but he must have some important reason." "What reason?" "Maybe he gets money for taking care of you." "How?" "There are people who receive government assistance to care for children. It could be that." "So he just wants money?" "It could be." The children were sad to discover they weren't truly loved, just seen as a source of income. "But we have you now," Emma tried to console herself. "Yes, you do, and I truly love you." "We love you too." It was a touching moment, but they didn't have time for sentimentality. They needed to leave the city before Gerald returned with reinforcements. They packed their bags quickly and left Green Hill that same night. This time they went to a larger city in the interior of Los Angeles. In Indianapolis, they managed to blend in with the population more easily. Dorothy found work in a factory, and the children enrolled in different schools to reduce the chances of being discovered together. For a whole year they lived relatively in peace. It was a more urban life, but the children adapted well. Noah was already walking and saying a few words. Emma was growing into a beautiful and intelligent girl. Tyler became interested in soccer and joined the school team. The twins were inseparable and always cheerful. Ethan had lost the habit of sucking his thumb and was more confident. Dorothy felt that she finally had a real family. It didn't matter that they weren't her biological children. The love she felt for them was real and deep, but the peace lasted only a year. One Saturday morning, Dorothy was at the market with Noah when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Finally, I found you." It was Gerald. Dorothy turned slowly, holding Noah tightly. "What do you want?" "I want my children back." "They're not yours." "Yes, they are, and you're going to give them back now." "I won't." "Yes, you will, because now I know the truth about you." "What truth?" "I know you lied about your identity. I know you have fake documents. I know you're running from the law." Dorothy felt her blood run cold. How had Gerald found out about the fake documents? "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you do. And you also know that I can turn you over to the police. Why? What do you gain from that? I get my children back. But why do you want these children? You're not even related to them." Gerald smiled maliciously. "Who said I'm not related? They said so themselves. They're children, they don't understand family complexities." "What complexities?" "I'm their father's cousin. I have legal rights over them. A cousin doesn't have custody rights." "They do when the parents sign an authorization." "The parents never signed any authorization." "Yes, they did." Gerald showed a document that looked more official than the previous ones. "This document is fake too." "No, it's not. This one is real." Dorothy tried to read the paper, but Gerald quickly put it away. "Even if it were true, the children are afraid of you. That proves you mistreated them." "I gave them discipline." "Something you don't know how to give." "Discipline isn't mistreatment." "I didn't mistreat anyone. They ran away from you, that's proof enough." Gerald lost his patience. "Enough discussion. You have 2 days to return my children. And if I don't return them, I'll turn you over to the police for document forgery and kidnapping." "It's not kidnapping to protect children. It's kidnapping when you use fake documents to do it." Dorothy realized she was in a very complicated situation. Gerald was right about the fake documents, and that could cause serious trouble. 2 days, Gerald repeated. "After that, I'll take legal action." He left the market, leaving Dorothy desperate. At home, she told the children what had happened. "We don't want to go with him," Emma cried. "I know, my dear, I'm trying to find a solution." "What solution?" "Maybe it's time to look for your parents." "How?" "By investigating that farm where they went to work." It was a risky idea, but it might be the only way to resolve the situation definitively. "Do you think our parents are still alive?" Wesley asked hopefully. "I believe so, and I believe they didn't abandon you voluntarily." "Then let's look for them." "Let's go." Dorothy took the torn letter that the children had kept since the beginning of the story. She managed to decipher Saint's Farm and part of what seemed to be the name of a city. With the help of the internet at a cyber cafe, she researched farms with similar names in the region where it all began. She found 3 possibilities: St. Joseph's Farm, St. John's Farm, and St. Peter's Farm. Let's investigate all 3, she decided. But first, she needed to protect the children. She couldn't take them on a dangerous investigation. She looked for a local church and spoke with the priest. "Father, I need to leave 5 children in safety for a few days while I resolve a family situation." "What kind of situation?" Dorothy gave a summarized version of the story, omitting the more complicated details. "I can leave the children at the church's community center. We have space and people to take care of them." "For how long?" "A week at most." "Agreed." Dorothy left the 5 children at the church's community center and set out to investigate the farms alone. The first farm, St. Joseph's, was 200 kilometers away. Dorothy took a bus and arrived there in the late afternoon. It was a large farm with coffee plantations and cattle. She looked for the office and asked to speak with the manager. "I'm looking for a couple who might be working here. Their names are Robert and Anna Thompson Harris." The manager, a man around 40 years old, checked the records. "We don't have any employees with those names." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. All employees are registered here." "What about temporary workers, people who came to work for a few months?" "No, we don't hire temporary labor." Dorothy left St. Joseph's Farm without any useful information. The next day she went to St. John's Farm. This one was even farther away in a more isolated area. The farm owner, Mr. Benedict, received her personally. "I'm looking for a couple who might have come to work here a few months ago." "What are their names?" "Robert and Anna Thompson Harris." Mr. Benedict thought for a few seconds. "I don't recall any couple with those names. But talk to Joey, my foreman. He knows all the employees." Joey was a man around 50 years old, with a tan complexion and thin, who had worked on the farm for 15 years. "Robert and Anna Thompson Harris," he repeated the names. "No, they never worked here." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. I know everyone who's ever been on this farm." Once again, Dorothy left without information. Only St. Peter's Farm remained. St. Peter's Farm was in the most remote area of all. It was a 4-hour bus ride to the nearest town, and then another 2 hours by hitchhiking to the farm. When she finally arrived, it was already getting dark. The farm seemed abandoned. There was no movement at all, and many of the buildings were in terrible condition. Dorothy knocked on the door of the main house, but no one answered. She walked around looking for signs of life. That's when she heard voices coming from a shed at the back of the property. She approached carefully and overheard a conversation between two men. "We have to speed up the work," one of them said. "The people are complaining too much." "They're working at their limit," the other replied. "They can't take any more pressure." "Yes, they can. And if they can't, we'll replace them with others." "What about the families?" "What families?" "The families they left behind. They keep asking when they can go back. They won't be going back anytime soon. They still owe a lot of money." Dorothy realized she had found something important. Those people seemed to be held against their will. And that couple with 5 children, Robert and Anna. Dorothy almost shouted with joy. She had finally found the children's parents. "They're the ones causing the most trouble," the conversation continued. "They're always asking about their children." "What children? They didn't bring any children with them. They insist they left 5 children in the city. That's their problem. Here, only work matters." "What if they try to escape?" "They won't escape. They know they owe money and that the debt keeps growing." "How does it grow? We charge for lodging, food, transportation." "The debt never decreases." Dorothy understood that Robert and Anna were being kept in a kind of modern slavery. They worked non-stop, but the debt always grew, preventing them from leaving the farm. "I need to see them," she whispered to herself. She waited for the 2 men to leave the shed and approached carefully. Inside the shed, about 20 people were sleeping in poor conditions. She searched among the faces until she found a couple who seemed to be the right age. The man was about 35, the woman around 30. Both were thin and looked tired. "Robert," she whispered softly. The man opened his eyes, startled. "Who are you?" "I came to talk about your children." Robert woke Anna immediately. "Anna, wake up. There's someone here talking about our kids." Anna got up quickly. "What kids? How are they?" "They're fine. They're safe with me." "Who are you?" Robert asked. "My name is Dorothy. I found your children over a year ago." "Found them where?" "In an abandoned trailer. They were running from a man who claimed to be their uncle." Robert and Anna looked at each other. "Gerald," Anna whispered. "You know him?" "He's my cousin," Robert explained. "But we don't trust him. That's why we didn't leave the kids with him when we came to work." "So you didn't authorize him to take care of the children?" "Never. We left them with a neighbor, Mrs. Julie." "What happened to Mrs. Julie?" "We don't know. When we got here, they cut off all our contact with the outside world." "Cut off how?" Anna explained the situation. "When we arrived, the boss said there was no phone on the farm and that we couldn't leave until we paid off the travel debts." "What debts?" "They said they spent a lot of money bringing us here and that we had to work to pay it back." "How much do you owe?" "We've worked over a year and the debt only grows," Robert said bitterly. "How does it grow?" "They charge for lodging, food, work tools, everything. The pay is never enough to settle it." Dorothy realized that Robert and Anna were victims of slave labor. It was a serious situation that needed to be reported. "How many people are in this situation?" "Everyone in this shed, about 20 families. "And you can't escape?" "Some have tried, but they always bring them back," Anna replied. "And when they bring them back, they cut off food for several days. That's a crime." "We know, but we can't prove anything. We have no access to a phone, internet, nothing." Dorothy thought quickly. She needed to get Robert and Anna out of there, but she also had to help the other families. "I'll get help," she promised. "How? You don't even know where you are." "Yes, I do, and I know people who can help." "Who?" "The police, the Department of Labor, human rights organizations." Robert shook his head. "They have contacts in the local police. We've tried before." "Then I'll go to the police in another state." "What if they find out you were here?" "They won't find out." Dorothy prepared to leave, but Anna grabbed her arm. "How are our children? Are they really okay?" "Yes, they are. Emma has become a very responsible girl. Tyler is strong and brave. The twins are cheerful and affectionate. Ethan has lost his shyness, and Noah... Noah has grown, Anna cried. Yes, he has. He's already walking and saying a few words. He doesn't even know me anymore. Yes, he does. Children don't forget their parents. Robert was also emotional. You took good care of them. I tried my best. Thank you. Anna hugged Dorothy. Thank you for saving our children. Now I'm going to save you too. Dorothy left the farm in the middle of the night. She walked 2 hours to the main road and got a ride to the city. From there, she took the first bus to the capital and went straight to the Department of Labor. I need to report a slave labor situation, she told the receptionist. Do you have a lawyer? I don't need a lawyer to file a complaint. You're right. I'll call a prosecutor to assist you. Prosecutor Dr. Frank listened carefully to Dorothy's entire story. This is a very serious accusation, he said. We'll need a special operation to investigate. How long will that take? A few days to organize, but I can tell you that if your complaint is valid, we'll shut down that farm and arrest those responsible. And the people who are there, they'll be freed and receive all necessary assistance. Dorothy returned to Indianapolis to pick up the children at the church. They ran to hug her when they saw her. Aunt Dorothy, Emma shouted, we missed you. I missed you too. Did you find out anything about our parents? Tyler asked anxiously. I did. Dorothy told the children she had found Robert and Anna, but omitted the details about the slavery situation. They're fine. When will we see them? Ethan asked. Soon. Very soon. 3 days later, Dorothy received a call from Dr. Frank. The operation was a success. We freed 23 families, including Robert and Anna Thompson Harris. Are they okay? They are. A bit malnourished and tired, but okay. Those responsible for the farm were arrested. Can I see them? Yes, you can. Yes. They're in a temporary shelter here in the capital. Dorothy took the 5 children and traveled to the capital. The reunion at the shelter was emotional. Mommy, Noah ran to Anna, even without really remembering her. My baby, Anna cried, holding her son in her arms. Robert hugged the other 4 children at the same time. Daddy, I thought you had abandoned us, Emma cried. We would never abandon you. They were holding us against our will. Aunt Dorothy took very good care of us. Robert and Anna turned to Dorothy. How can we thank you for what you've done? You don't need to thank me. It was a privilege to care for your children. You saved our family. You saved my life, Dorothy replied honestly. When I found these children, I was ready to give up on everything. They gave me a reason to live. Then we're a family now, Anna suggested. What do you mean? You'll continue to be part of the children's lives. They love you like a second mother. It was a tempting offer, but Dorothy knew she needed to rebuild her own life. I'll always be available for them, but you need to start over as a family. What about Gerald? Robert asked. Is he still threatening you? He is, but now that you've been found, he no longer has any rights over the children. Dr. Frank, who was following the conversation, clarified the legal situation. With the parents free and reunited with their children, any attempt by Gerald to claim custody will be automatically invalidated. What if he insists? Then it will be a police matter, attempted kidnapping. Finally, after more than a year of running and hiding, the situation was resolved. Robert and Anna received compensation from the government for the slave labor and managed to rent a small house in a nearby town. Dorothy also received a reward for reporting the slave labor scheme. It was enough money to start her life over. I'm going to open a small store, she told the Thompson Harris family. Where? In the same town where you'll be living. That way I can continue to watch the children grow up. That would be wonderful. And so, a year and a half after finding 5 frightened children in an abandoned trailer, Dorothy had built a new family and a new purpose in life. She opened a small grocery store in the town where Robert and Anna settled. The children visited her every day after school, and she took part in all the important moments of their lives. Emma grew up and became a beautiful and intelligent teenager who never forgot to thank Aunt Dorothy for saving her. Tyler became a responsible young man who helped his father at work. The twins Lily and Ava developed distinct personalities, but maintained their usual closeness. Ethan completely lost his shyness and became a cheerful and talkative boy. And Noah grew up calling Dorothy Aunt Dorothy, but knowing that Robert and Anna were his real parents. Gerald tried one last time to claim custody of the children, but was arrested for document forgery and attempted kidnapping. It was discovered that he had a scheme to use orphaned or abandoned children to receive government benefits. Robert set up a small auto repair shop, and Anna began working as a seamstress. The family, which had been torn apart by the greed of evil people, was finally reunited and at peace. Dorothy, who had lost everything and was ready to give up on life, found a reason to live again. Taking care of those 5 children taught her that family isn't just about blood ties, but about love, dedication, and sacrifice. 5 years after the reunion, Dorothy was invited to be Emma's maid of honor, who had become a young lawyer and wanted to specialize in children's rights. "Aunt Dorothy," Emma said in her wedding speech, "you taught us that sometimes angels appear in the darkest moments of our lives. Thank you for being our angel." Dorothy cried with emotion. That 8-year-old girl she had found in an abandoned trailer was now graduated, married, and ready to help other at-risk children. Tyler became a physical education teacher and worked with underprivileged children. The twins graduated in nursing and worked at the local hospital. Ethan studied veterinary medicine and dreamed of having his own clinic. And Noah, who was now 6 years old, was a cheerful and healthy child who held no memories of the difficult times. The abandoned trailer where it all began was turned into a small community library, in honor of the place where a family found each other in the midst of despair. The story of Dorothy and the 5 children spread throughout the region and inspired other people to help at-risk children. The town created a foster family program, and Dorothy became the volunteer coordinator of the project. "We never know when we'll find our purpose in life," she would tell people who wanted to help. "Sometimes it appears when we least expect it, in the form of 5 frightened children who need love." Robert and Anna never forgot what Dorothy did for their family. Every year, on the day they reunited, they held a gratitude party where Dorothy was the guest of honor. "You didn't just save our children," Robert always said. "You taught us the true meaning of family." And Dorothy, who had entered that abandoned trailer ready to end her story, discovered that she was actually just beginning the most important chapter of her life. The love she received from those 5 children healed her from the pain of losing her husband. The purpose she found in caring for them helped her overcome the sadness of losing her home. And the family she built with them taught her that sometimes we lose everything to gain something much greater. 10 years later, when Noah turned 16, the whole family gathered for a big party. 3 generations were there: Robert and Anna, now grandparents to several grandchildren, the 5 siblings, all adults and successful, and Dorothy, the beloved Aunt Dorothy, who had become the emotional pillar of that entire extended family. Aunt Dorothy, Noah, now a tall and handsome teenager, gave a speech at the party. "I don't remember when you found us, but my siblings always tell me the story. You are proof that miracles exist and that love can turn any tragedy into a blessing." Dorothy looked around the party and saw happy faces, children playing, couples kissing, families reunited. It was hard to believe that all of it had started during the worst moment of her life. "Thank you," she whispered to the sky, grateful to her late husband for guiding her to that abandoned trailer where 5 children were waiting for her. "Thank you," she whispered to the 5 children, now adults, who had taught her that life always offers a second chance to those brave enough to accept it. "Thank you," she whispered to herself, for finding the strength to protect 5 innocent children when she thought she had nothing left to offer the world. And when the party ended and everyone went home, Dorothy stayed alone for a few minutes in Robert and Anna's backyard. She looked at the stars and smiled. She had entered that abandoned trailer as a desperate widow who had lost everything. She left it as a mother of 5 children and a grandmother of 12 grandchildren. She had entered without hope and left with more love than she ever imagined possible. Sometimes the happiest endings begin in the saddest moments. Sometimes, when we lose everything, it's because we're about to gain something much greater. And sometimes when we think our story is over, it's actually just beginning. End of story. And now, dear listener, tell me what you thought of this moving story. Do you believe Dorothy made the right decisions in protecting those 5 children? How would you act in a similar situation? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. Don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one. Thank you so much for your company.